in today. I think we've got reasonably good amount of participants. We'll get started. So yesterday we covered starting with a very simple when we did. We had one thing with a regular freestyle project, then we had a JIT plugin install. And today, as I mentioned in your WhatsApp, so I'm sure all of you would have downloaded the Jenkins and plugins and then extracted. You see, I have got so many plugins right here. So I got all the plugins. Some of them may not be compatible with the recent versions. So if you go to the Manage Jenkins and click on the Manage plugin, you will see some of the plugins are basically waiting for some amount of updates. So which is what you will see some of them looking for some kind of errors, right? You forcefully updated from what you had yesterday. So which is overriding the new versions of that as well. That's what you would have. So I got a lot of pipelines. See Docker pipeline coming into place, email extensions. So all these pipeline folders, we will see some of them today, some of them next week. So I got too many plugins which came to work. Now let's go back to the dashboard. When I click on new item, you will be amazed to see a lot of options coming in today, right? Like a Bitbucket, which I work on my projects, and we have a multi-branch, which is going to help us to build a pipeline with multiple branches and so on, multiple configurations. Pipelines are going to be the one which we're going to learn next week, and some of them on the last week portion. Today we're going to start with the Maven project. These are all coming from the dependencies, right? Brilliant, right? So today we'll start with the Maven project. Let's get started with the Maven project, something like Maven Jenkins, sure, right? Something. So I'll select the Maven project and then click OK, right? So if you have not installed the Jenkins plugin for Maven, please remember the one of the option is you download all the plugins and leave them in .plugins followed by .jenkins followed by the plugins folder, or you go to the manage Jenkins and come all the way to your manage plugin, and then you have, in your case it will be in the available. In my case it is already installed. So you have to search here for Maven, and you will see the Maven plugin in your case. And in my case, it is already installed. So I'm going to search right here in Maven right here, and you would see the Maven plugin available. Okay. So fundamentally, there is a Maven integration plugin, which is what I installed, and which is helping to have some other add-on dependencies as well. So technically, you should have installed that to have it, right? Okay. Now coming back to here, so I have already a Maven Jenkins job. And if you see the yesterday's in a freestyle projects on the configure, you would have seen only few tabs, right? Some of the few tabs that you see generally yesterday. We did not go deeper to yesterday's screens, but you saw some of them already, correct? Okay, and now, in case you guys wanted to look at, say, the Maven portion of it, take a look at the Maven Jenkins portion of it. You will be amazed to see that when I go to the configure option, you have quite a few additional tabs coming into place. Right? Something like a pre-steps and build settings and post-build actions. There are few tabs are coming in because these are all part of the Maven plugin part of the system. Okay. Brilliant. That's what you have to look at. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, are we good so far? Yes. So did you all understood how to do the plugins? Yeah, plugins and have the plugins on your machine. Right. Okay. Super cool. So now let me get started with a very simple Maven. I believe can you all coming from the DevOps batches, and of course the other team also should be knowing the basic Maven. Can you all type down how many life cycles you have seen? What are the different life cycles at least? Remember, recollect yourself some of the life cycles in Maven. Quick answers. Maven life cycles. Those are all goals. Don't confuse between goals versus life cycles. What are the different life cycles you all saw? All my dear DevOps learners. Okay, some of you are typing all the goals, which is wrong. Goals are not part of it, right? Remember that. Okay. So for all of you, I'm not teaching Maven here. So I think you're misconnected between your life cycle as well as something called your goal. A life cycle has three different life cycles. You will see it. The three different life cycles are basically clean, and you have got a default. Also something interestingly for documentation. So remember that. And you also have different goals, right? You got a lot of goals, 7 goals by default. What are the different goals you would have seen? Yes. Remember what are the different goals in Maven? What is the very much the first goal for the default life cycle? The default life cycle, where does it start? Exactly. Validate, and then you have compile, right? And then you have got unit test, which is test. Then you have a package. After package, what do you have? After package, what do you have? You have verify, which is an integration test, right? And then you have got install and deploy, correct? Got a couple of goals, what you have in the life cycles. You can create a custom life cycle as well, correct? So you can look at custom life cycle as well, right? So these are something you have to remember exactly. So now in my case, what I'm going to do is I have to have first, if I have to run the Maven, I should have had the Maven on my local machine. So let me go to my C colon. I already downloaded the Maven and have it in my local machine. So if you have not done that, all that you have to do is go to the Maven website and download the Maven for yours. So how to download? You type Maven download, and the Maven website will come from the Apache, where you have an option to download. Download the zip file, irrespective of your OS. It could be your Windows, Linux, or Mac. Download the bin.zip. I'll just copy this link and post it in your chat box in case if you don't have. I'm sure the people coming from the DevOps should have it. So download it, extract this, and then I have placed them in the SQL and Maven. You can keep it anywhere as you like to. So you keep it in the some folder right here, and I got a C colon Maven is my Maven root folder. Then once you extract and keep it here, right, go back to your Jenkins, right? I have my Jenkins right here, and I have to go to manage Jenkins. And again, global tool configuration as we did yesterday with the JIT configuration. I'm JDK for some of you, and we are going to go and add a Maven. So click on the Maven and put the name something like Maven and put the Maven home like SQL and Maven. So make sure you do that. If you have not done that, not now, take a note of it and remember to do it. Don't go until bin folder. So if you go until bin, automatically Jenkins will tell you, hey, this doesn't look like a Maven directory. So which is a warning for you to know you should not be going. But if you remember the JIT, we were adding JIT until the executable file. Hence, we need to have the full path. It is same for your case of Mac, Linux, and Windows. Similar thing. Go to the directory where you have a Maven folder, then apply save it. Okay, by which the path is set for Maven to go. So let me again connect back. If you want to see if your Maven is already done or not, so go to command line, just type Maven, and that will tell you if your Maven is something, right? So that should tell you, right? So you can get your version also Maven version, right? That's a way to do it, right? So you can download and extract it, put it in any path, and then add that path pretty much on your manage Jenkins global tool configurations. Okay, so by which you have Maven set for your Jenkins folder. Remember that. Okay, is that super clear for all of you? Thumbs up to confirm you guys got it. Okay, now the Maven is ready, willing to integrate with Jenkins. Now come back to the dashboards and in the Maven Jenkins configure. So you will see the rest of them very, very similar. Something added right here for like concurrent builds, right? Options for you to throttle builds. This is not something you'll see extra. We'll talk about it as we progress when we do parallel execution of builds. and at the moment, don't worry about it. JIT Mercurial, because I've also added the Mercurial one part of my project. So, right, so don't worry about this. You also got some additional build triggers because of your new plugins. Let's not worry about that at this moment. I'm not going to build trigger right now. We got build environment. I'm not going to use it either. No preconditions at this moment. If you see here, it is telling me, Babu, you said Maven job, so which means pom.xml. Okay, pom.xml, right? Uh, Sir, how does Krishna sir asked, how does Jenkins validate the path and runtime for any tool? Can you answer this little later? Let me complete my Maven flow. Now, all the Maven has to run based on the pom.xml, right? What does here pom stands for? Quick answers. What does this pom stands for?
Project object model.
Exactly. So people who don't get confused, because the entire Maven, it is not a page object model. So it's a project object model, because Maven considers the entire component as a single project. So the entire project comes as an object itself. So you will be able to look at the object of the entire project at runtime. That's what it is pom.xml. So entire build is written inside the pom.xml. So we already downloaded from our github.com, and we actually have it locally, but still we'll go back to the same folder. Yesterday what we did, specifically inc Jenkins folder. Yesterday we pulled this. In this we had two projects internally. One project is for scheduling a job, which is a pure Java job. If you go to build automation, it is a pom.xml, it is a Maven job. If you hit the pom.xml right here, you'll see that it is having project. So project object model, the entire project is stored here. The name of the project, the group IDs, the artifact ID, the version, the dependencies, whatever the build I need to create. So I'm sure many of you know this, so I'm not going to talk about it, right? So what happens in this scenario is I'm going to run this Maven, right, with a go, right? But the pom.xml is coming to my machine and sitting on my machine. If you remember yesterday, it should be sitting on my local machine under what folder? Quick answers, what folder?
Var lib
Under
Jenkins.
Jenkins followed by workspace folder. Okay, remember workspace folder. So it came down and sat here. And if you see yesterday when we say get started with JIT, I think JIT 2 or something, got a build automation coming and sitting. So you should not be writing your workspace path from the GitHub. You should be writing from your local Jenkins workspace. So already the workspace is here, and right here, you should be writing from build automation / pom.xml. So I have to go back right now. Maybe in my project, when I download this, this is going to bring to build automation. That's a project internally inside my GitHub, right? So that's a path my GitHub should also hold, which I did not put yet. So let me go and get the GitHub path, right? So get this. Copy that guy and bring it on here. So brilliant. It's a public one, so nobody is going to really matter. We can have a pull for sure. So we got it. And then we are going to change this to main because it is holding up to the main branch. And then we are not worried about the trigger as I told you, but we inside this workspace it's going to download. It's going to be build automation / pom.xml. Now I need to tell the goal, what goal I'm going to do, right? So I'm going to say, like, for example, what install will do. Install will go through all the other 6 steps or other 5 steps and finally copy that war file or jar file, which is the package, into the .m2 folder. That's what it should do. It should move to my local Maven repo or pointed Maven repo to the .m2 folder. That's what it's supposed to do. So I did the install. I'm not talking about email right now. We'll be learning as we progress. Apply, save. So let's go build now. And yesterday I found when I'm debugging with some people, make sure you look at the console output when it is running. So you get an idea right now. So let it fail. If it is failing, I'm glad, but I'll teach you how to debug, right? How to debug. So it said it started on the user Babu running as a system and it's building a workspace in this path. The recommended JIT tool is none. It is not giving any specific JIT tool in repo. There is a cloning the remote repo, the local, right? And then its workspace is pulled and it took a timeout configurations and it came all the way to do the Jenkins, all that stuff. And then it went on to see there was a revision number in which it is pulled because that should be the last revision. And the last commit message is updating the testing XML. And then it pulled to the local and then started running the Maven path where pom.xml followed by the goal is going to be installed, right? That's what it's trying to do that. So now Maven is running by pulling all the resources which is missing and then triggering the test which I'm in the Surefire plugin. It's trying to run the test and that test went on to be successful and build is successful. Once the build is successful, the job is also successful. So there is two different status. One is a build status, one is a job status. Sometimes the build status may be successful and job status can fail. So you have to be watchful about. Okay, we'll talk about those scenarios when it can fail, what happens to it, all that. So, but we are focusing on build success first and then the job success again. Okay, so by which the tests are run right now. So if I go to my workspace right now, the code is pulled onto the new workspace we had, Maven Jenkins job, which we are running from here. Now the job would have run in jobs folder, Maven Jenkins job, and you would have got the build right here, the first one, and you would have got the logs also right. Now, if you return some code to basically get a report, then those reports will come into your workspace. We'll talk about it as we progress. Right? If you have pushed some reporting layer and created some reporting folders, the reports will come and sit here. Okay, that's what will happen. The target folder is created something called build automation. What is build automation? Build automation is the name that we saw in this scenario. Let's go to the JIT and take a look at the pom.xml. So if you see the pom.xml, the artifact name is build automation. The version is 1.0.0. So hence it labeled our workspace with a jar file as build automation. So if you go to our .m2 folder right now and take a look at your repository, and let's also take a look at what is the package name that we had. The package name was org test leaf. So I go all the way to in org test leaf. And within the test leaf, we are supposed to see the project name as build automation. So let me go to build automation. And within the build automation and 1.0, and you got 9/19, 2.22 p.m. We got the jar file moved here. So what happens? The install is moving into this workspace on the build, right? Whatever build it is created on the target folder has been pushed to this workspace. Are we good? Clear? So let's do one more run before we can understand what Maven is done with us. Making sure if you see this code again and any developers, anybody who is not from a test automation background, nothing to worry. What this code is trying to run is in pom.xml, it is triggering a build plugin. The build plugin is running some tests using testng.xml. Testng.xml is one of the test execution engine and which goes and calls a class called chrome.login. You don't really have to know all that as an admin, but the chrome.login is right here, which is going to launch a Chrome browser. If you don't specify which browser, by default it runs a Chrome browser for you and it runs and closes the browser. That's exactly what it does. So let's take a look what happens if I run this again. Build now. So generally what I do if I'm a Jenkins admin, I keep watching my console. That's where I come to know what's happening. Right. The second time it's going to be really fast because there is nothing to download. So it's going to be super fast. Right. Nothing to compile, everything is compiled. Going to trigger the test. Now the browser should come onto your right window. If you keep watching, there's a browser which is coming at the bottom of the window, and it quickly vanished, right? Because it was just a very quick test which happened very quickly. So we are done. Then create a .com.jar file. This jar file from our target folder, it will move to the .m2 folder, right? Everything is. This is exactly what it does, right? Are we clear? So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to try a similar Maven project. You can use the same project or any of your project, but at 10 minutes to set up the Maven. Remember, if you don't have a Maven, you should have the Maven downloaded on your machine and set the path and on the Jenkins, and then through the configure tools, and then finally you have to set up the option for yourself to run the test. Okay, that's what you likely have to do. Okay, let's get done in 10 minutes. So in real-time projects, when we wanted to really start executing at different time zones when you're not going to be available, how do we do that? To do that, we come to something called build trigger, right? So we already know the general tab is all about this, but I have to teach you some of the parameterizations, all that I'll do it. Source code, we understood fairly enough, talking about the public repos and the private repos with credentials as well, and branches also. Then we are moving to build triggers. In the build triggers, the first one, which is very commonly used in projects, are something like schedulers. Based on a schedule, how do you do it? So we have something called build periodically. We have something called build periodically. I'm going to quickly run through about what are the different options you have in build periodically. So if you see, there are a couple of options you have to note it. One, the first thing is you could have 5 input for you to do it. The 5 input is minute, hour, day of the month, and day of the week. Got 5 different input that you have to give as part of the process. Is that clear to all of you? Okay, perfect. So we have to give 5 different input. First one is a minute. Minute can be only within the hour, 0 length 59. Hour is going to be 0 to 23, 24 hours window. Day of the month is going to be 1 to 31, but sometimes if you put 31 for Feb, it's going to be doing something like this, right? So we can do a cron job. That's what we are going to do next, right? So the month is going to be 1 to 12. So it is going to be a number, right? It is not like, yeah, a triple M values, right? So it is going to be always going to be double M values, right? So the day of the week is going to be 0 to 7. Zeros and 7 are Sunday, right? So anything you put 0 to 7 is a Sunday, 1 to all the way 6 go from Monday to Saturday. So you can put this. And if you have to put these values, for example, I want to schedule my job tonight at 10 o'clock, right? I want to do the job at 10 o'clock tonight. Then the first one, as you learned, is minute, 10 o'clock, exactly 10 o'clock. So I can say 00. Then I can go and say, what is the hour you want to run? 10 o'clock, 22 is the time. Then you want to do it right now, the day of the month. Day of the month is going to be, which says 00 may be looking wrong, but just leave it like 0, right? So 022, then the day of the month is going to be any day, right? I say every day at night 10 o'clock. So every day has to put something like a star. So star means all the valid values between 1 to 31. So every day of the month it will get executed. Then add a space. Then the month. Every month I wanted to run. So I just put another star. White space again. And then day of the week. I want to run only on weekdays. Monday to Friday. Then I do 1-5, which is called range. If you want to keep a range, then you say M-N range. So I want to do it 1 to 5. So remember, at exactly 10 p.m. at night, every single day of the month, every single day of a particular day of the month, and then you say but happens only on the weekdays. So hence 1 to 5. So it's going to run. So what is the next weekday it will be running? What would be the next date it should be running? Should be running on Monday next
After Friday, it's Monday.
Monday. So what date it is? So it's going to be 20th, right? 20th at 10 p.m. it should be running, right? That's exactly what it is. But if at all it ran before, right? So what would be time? So that's exactly Monday, September 20th, 10 o'clock it's going to run. Ignore the seconds because it doesn't make any value to the system, right? So if at all it was configured earlier, then it would have run last time on Friday. That's what it meant to say. If at all you kept it live before, then it will run on Friday at 10 o'clock. So next time it's going to run at Monday. But I'm not going to have a patience to wait to see it on Monday. I'm going to trigger it maybe at, let's say, I'm currently at 3:06 p.m. So I'm going to do it today. So today is Sunday. So I'm going to say Sunday. And I don't want to wait until 10 o'clock. So I want to do it 3 o'clock. What is 3 o'clock? It's going to be 15. And I'm going to run this at 8 minutes, right? So I'm going to put 8 minutes. So technically 3:08 it should technically start. Right now we are in 3:06, right? So 3:06, still 34, so I can put it 7. So, sure. Okay, apply, save it. So I'm not going to trigger the test. Take a look. Now automatically when the time clicks 3:07, then the test should get automatically triggered. Right, that's exactly what happens. Now this technique is used using Java scheduler. So they have implemented the Java scheduler, which is going to go and poll based on the value, and this automatically triggers the job. So it is a Java implementation solution by default available in Jenkins. So whenever the time reaches a given particular time, it is going to go and trigger this. Does it make sense to all of you? Now this can be very helpful. You don't have to do it like a Windows scheduler if you want to run a particular job, like making a new build or running a test automation suite or creating a Linux checks. These all can be avoided and you can configure it pretty much in your Jenkins job, which can happily do it for you at a particular time. Is that super clear for all of you? Yes. And the time it is going to run as the Jenkins time, right? It is on my local laptop, hence it is going to be IST time. So it depends on where the Jenkins is installed. It's going to go and run based on that particular time zone. Are we good? Clear with that? Now this is not so going to be real time, just not this, right? That's going to be a little more than that. For example, in reality, in one of my project, we wanted this particular build. Actually, there's a monitoring build to run every 10 minutes. So what happens is we want to scale up some Kubernetes pods, right? The Kubernetes pods are basically a container orchestration service, which need to be every 10 minutes. We wanted to go and monitor what is the size of the queue we have. Should we increase the queue or decrease the queue? We will take a look at it. So when we want to do something like this in real time, where we don't want to write some Java code to find out a 10 minutes job to keep going and triggering. So what I can do is I can write that portion of Java code as a Maven project and put a trigger right here. It is supposed to run every 10 minutes once. So when you do this, this is going to run every single minute, right? This is going to be every single minute. But if I say every single minute is going to be too much to do it. So what I can do is I can go and say slash. See, that's what the next one is going to be. So you want to have an interval, right? You want it to have an interval, specific interval, right? So I want to have it every 10 minutes. I can go and say slash 10 minute, right? This is going to run every 10 minutes to run this test, right? The next test will be 310. After 310, it's going to be 320, 330, 340. It's going to keep running like this. But the problem here is there is something telling me that this is okay, absolutely okay. It should run actually 310. Once you cross 10, 310, your local Jenkins time zone process 310. The next job should be 320. We can check that also. But what is going to be a problematic scenario here is, what if there are 10 jobs running at 310, all of them supposed to start at 310? Is that heavier choking problem or not? What do you guys think? Is that a good idea to run everything at every 10 minutes? Is that a good idea? What might happen? There will be huge loads going on the Jenkins server, correct? So due to the fact that now the problem is, it's not a great idea to do this, right? So hence what we can do is, if there are multiple jobs in the recent version of Jenkins, they give you an option to load balance. You don't have to take care of it. Jenkins will take care of you. This is called hash. H stands for hash. When you do it, it will distribute it. Hey, anyway, you want to run every 10 minutes. It's not exactly 10, right? You can do it little, maybe 10, 1, 10, 2. So I'll help you to ensure that I load balance everything for you to distribute it. I'll take care for you. That's what it does using the hashing. Is that clear for all of you? Understood. Brilliant. So remember the hash. So again, let's go and recap the scheduler. So the first 5 ones, which is going to be minute, hour, day of the month, and the day of the week. And here we have something like this. Babu, I want to run only basically on the first or second. If I want to build only on first or second of every month, then what I can do is 1, 2. If I do 1, 2, so it is going to be like, okay, so I did on the heart. So maybe let me not do on the heart. I want to run only the first month, day 1 or day 2 of the month. So I want to do 1, 2, something like this. So it will run either on first or second. That's what it will run. Or I can also say first, 10 or 20th, it should run every 10 days. This will run something like this: 10th, next one 20th, the next one 30th. Is it making sense to all of you? So this is basically, we say that when you want to have a multiple values, not a range. When I say multiple values, they are not connected. Maybe I want to run 8 and 19. There is no correlation. Maybe because it was doing it something like this, I can put a particular timeline. Okay, Arun has asked, what is the, how does it work on the hash? Now, for example, when you become a DevOps engineer, right, and you may be managing multiple jobs in reality, right, maybe 100 jobs. And these 100 jobs are scheduled by your Jenkins master. Your Jenkins master is this machine, which is going to help you to schedule all the jobs. Now, it has to trigger the jobs by Java threads, right? Internally, Java threads are being used to schedule these jobs, maybe running in different nodes, maybe. But to ensure that these Java threads are triggered at that moment, instead of doing everything at once, what does it do is it try to read what are being the scheduled jobs at that moment. It try to prioritize and help you to eventually do it one by one. Instead of going through multi-threading implementation, it creates a thread, run it, and then create another thread run. So it creates more like a sequential trigger rather than the parallel trigger. Does it make sense? That's what the H does. H stands for hash.
Hello, Babu.
Yes.
When you mention 8, 19 or 1, 10, 20, does it say is it or is it and?
It is and. See, okay. It runs on first, it runs on 10th, it runs on 20th.
Okay.
Okay, so these are all the options for building periodically. Okay, let me quickly do a validation before we can go, because to try this, it is very simple, but I'm going to make it a little more to ensure how many of you understood this, right? I want a job to run on every second Friday. Let me not make it complex. Maybe every first Friday, right? Every first Friday. Every first Friday of the month at let's say at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. every first Friday. Let me know the answer. Every first Friday of every month. At 4 p.m. Many of you got it wrong and you wanted to run the first Friday. So please understand, some of you put the last one as 5. So remember, I want to run only the first Friday of every month. So as many of you did this, look at that. That is going to be like this, right? 0, 16, star, star, 5 is going to run on basically every Friday. Every Friday. So remember that. Pi by 1 is not a right answer. You cannot use pi by 1. How do you break? What is by? There is no h by 0. So remember it also, Rahul. Should not use h by. I want every first Friday of the month. First Friday of the month. Pragat, it will not work also. Your answer is not right. You guys can try, experiment it. I'll give a minute for you to try it on your own Jenkins. If you put it, you will get an answer. Okay, let's move on. I think we got the possible solutions around. So the next one I wanted you to understand is how to actually trigger the build remotely. How to trigger the build remotely. Are we good with the schedule? Periodical build? Yes. Are we all clear with that? Okay, I need a quick answer so that we can move forward.
Babu, one question.
Ah,
Um, would it be possible to configure the scheduling in such a way that suppose it runs for 5 days in a week and I want different times for that to be triggered?
different times meaning?
So on Monday, it should start at 1 o'clock, on Tuesday at 2 o'clock, something like that.
Then you cannot have such options because then you have to design multiple jobs.
Okay, so within this schedule thing, we cannot have multiple rows, is it?
Because this you are trying to make it is not a cron job. It is, say, cron jobs are generally only eventually running based on some numbers. If you wanted to apply some logic for Monday this, Tuesday this, Wednesday this, then you don't have a choice. That becomes a if else condition, correct?
Okay, no, I thought we can add rows within this schedule box.
That's fundamentally if you're trying to do it, what is the logic there, correct?
Yeah.
No logic. Which one it will pick? It's all file systems. You understood, right?
Yeah. Thanks,
Okay.
Babu. Yeah.
Okay. Now, right. Now the other question I had is from Arun. Is there a shortcut? Arun, the shortcut is if you go to the cron, if you look for cron jobs, I can send you some medium article where you will be able to find these kind of informations. So search for cron job uh, schedule. You should end up in seeing some documentation around it. I can also tell you how to do that. Maybe there are a lot of sites where you will end up in seeing this. This is purely cron job, right? So you will see that a shortcuts or a documentation, you should be able to do it. I think you maybe one of them I use is something like this, crontab.bureau. So you will be able to see this. So try using something like this. So that can be very, very helpful. Okay. And technically these are all the same stuff, right? It is not something very, very new. And something which I forgot to tell you was, okay, you can also have annotations like this, right? You want to test run like at yearly, at annually, at monthly, weekly, daily, midnight, hourly. These all can be also configured. Okay, it's a purely a cron job actions. Okay, good or good? Did we all understood?
Babu,
The Jenkins
can you share this text note?
Yeah, sure. Will do.
Thanks.
Babu, in the notepad h/15 is there, right? So that will be running every 15 minutes.
Yeah. This is basically, this is not preferred option. This is basically for load balance. So this is basically the first option I showed you without load balancing. And this is for load balancing.
Okay.
Both are same, right? Yeah, it's available in Jenkins too. Yes, documentation, but I've written down with an examples and so on. So I'll also give you a reference site which can. So all the documentation you will see in the Jenkins when you click the question mark. The question mark will give you all these options every time. That's where the documentation starts. Okay, fine. But you will not see documentation for different combination permutations. But yeah, it is a decent start. Okay, let's go to the next one, something called remote jobs. Right? How to trigger a remote job. So I'll start with same thing, a Maven job again, because most of you may be ending up in working in a Maven job. So I'm going to say a remote Maven job. Let me select the Maven job, click OK, and then trigger this Maven job externally from another source. What can be a good test case? For example, for developers, the previous test case use cases can be, for example, you want to build a trigger based on night. For example, as I worked in my previous DevOps projects, you might have a build to be triggered only at late night, 10 o'clock, when you're working basically out of India. So, or when you have a global projects, we might say only on a weekends, most of them don't work. We run a scheduled job. Have you heard sometimes being your infra team calling and telling there is a scheduler running at weekends, so the systems will be slow? Have you heard such things? Sometimes these are all very, very common in your cases that would happen, right? So there are jobs which are triggered at late night. They say like database has been archived tonight, so the systems are going to be slow, something like that. So what are the right use cases for your Jenkins schedulers? Or you have a fixed timeline where some jobs are going to run and these will get done only at that time, right? If you are a test automation engineer, generally you run most of your tests. In my case, I run my smoke test cases whenever I get a new gun. I run all my sanity tests at late night, maybe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, depends on when my team goes to bed. I hit all 11 o'clock, run a 1 hour test or a 30 minutes test at night, 11 o'clock. I schedule them. And all my weekend, I run my regression suite. We used to have 1,000, 2,000 test cases which need to run a suite, big suite. And these are all used to be, those days it used to be a Windows desktop test. So it runs sequentially, you cannot parallelize them. So you have a choice of running them one by one. So when you have such kind of test, even today we have Oracle warehouse management test. Unfortunately, we couldn't run them parallelly because of the data status. It moves from one status to another status naturally after running a batch jobs. These are all large processes in the warehouse management product, so which has to go sequentially. So in such kind of problems, we have to run on the weekends so that the entire test suite takes about 8 hours, 9 hours to complete. So hence the next job will get scheduled later. In such kind of problem statement, the use cases to periodically build will be very nice and it works for you. Right. Now the next one is building it remotely. What are the best use cases for it? For example, the best use case is I'm a developer. I made a code change. I pushed the code change. Then I thought, okay, I tested locally. All the unit tests passed. I thought I should give the build to the testers right now. So I don't want to go to Jenkins, trigger a test. Rather, I think we all use today Slack. How many of you use Slack in your project? Right. So many of you might be using Slack, which is your messaging tool. How many of you use Microsoft Teams? Microsoft Teams. So we all use these kind of messaging tools, right? So I think being a developer myself, I can go and say in my uh, Teams groups, right? You have a groups on the Teams, right, with the developers and testers, and say build. If I put a command like build, start build, the build ready, some command, something like this, then automatically my build has to get triggered. So I don't want to go log into Jenkins and make a trigger and make it to happen. With a simple typing command on your messaging tools like a Slack or messaging tools like your could be like your Teams, Microsoft Teams, or by sending an email saying that a start job, something like this. Is that what I want to do? Yeah, Alexa is more like for a personal use. We don't actually we use it for more of a demo. We never do that. It's a voiceover, right? But most of the corporate companies doesn't use it, right? So maybe Alexa or Google Home, if we have, you can say Alexa, hey, start the build number 1, 2, 3, 4, or start the build so and so. So voiceover converted into a RESTful API, which gets it. So now what is the thumb rule or technology behind starting a remote job? Jenkins gives you a RESTful API. Jenkins exposes a RESTful API. Using the RESTful API, you will be able to do it. Let's see how do we do it. So first you need to select the option called trigger build remotely. So when you trigger remotely, this is how the URL is going to look like. This is how the URL is going to look like. So I'm going to go open a notepad, right? And then launch it. So I have a Jenkins URL followed by the job and the remote. This is how your folders are going to look like. There I'm going to call, basically if you see, it acts as a API server. Local workspace is going to act as a server. So your machine is going to be sitting like this, localhost. So they use RESTful controller to call this activity based. So your API server is nothing but it is sitting on this machine, right? So it is nothing but your Jenkins followed by the job, right? This is what it is going to look like, right? So inside the jobs, you're going to have a remote Maven job. So I'm going to call the build an API call and through a token. Why do we need a token? So that I have a security purpose. I don't let anybody to come and hit my server. So I'm going to have a security reasons for saying who can access it. I can have a token, say I have a token 1, 2, 3, 4, some number like this, right? So something maybe a secured number for people not aware of this, right? So I do that. So I have to go and copy this and put it into my token. Token name is this. So if you know what is RESTful API structure is, this is going to be your HTTP is your protocol, and this is your server API server. This is your API server port. This is all resources. Then here is the query parameter. So I'm sending a query parameter the token. This is default mandatory, and you can add in the recent Jenkins version. You can be able to add few more custom parameters as well for your own references to understand which API you're calling. So now these informations need to be hit. But if you hit it directly, it may not work. So we have to do something. First, let me save this. So before I hit my remote job, I need to go to my dashboard, go to my manage Jenkins, go to my configure system, right? Not configure system, configure global security. Because this is a RESTful API, I need to authorize or tell people who has to access it. So if I have hit on the configure global security, and you will see in your by default, you can see something like this, right? Jenkins would see something, but in this case, allow anonymous read access is unchecked in your case. You should check. Unless you check it, you will not be given permission to hit this. You will not be given permission to hit this. So make sure you go to your configure global security in the authorization, or you can do anyone can do anything. But when I say anyone can do anything, it may be risky for anybody hitting it outside. If it is a public Jenkins, then people can just comment. So to avoid that, you give login user can do anything, but allow anonymous read access. Write access you cannot do, which means I cannot come and delete your job. I cannot delete your logs. Nothing can be done, but I can do a read access so that they can go and read the jobs and hit the jobs, right? So I can go and do that and apply save. Now what you can do is you can just open another browser, right? Let me just open one and just go to this and paste. Now I'm going to hit this request. You see right now coming back to the dashboard and look at the remote Maven job. Currently there is no build. So I'm going to go and enter. A request would have been sent. A RESTful API request is sent from here, right? That's what it will happen in this case when you look at the network, when you do that. Now the request should have come and hit this, right? So you got a build which clicked, but because we have not put anything into this, it failed. That's okay. Let's go and configure this right now. But at least you saw that the API call came and the build got triggered in this case. But let me also quickly do something so that this doesn't fail. Okay, so let me go. Build triggers is already set, and in the root I have to put the JIT. So let me put the JIT. Okay, and then you all know that we have to go and change this as well. So build automation slash home.xml.
Babu, instead of updating every time, can we copy an existing?
Yeah, copy. My intent was not that, right? So I'll tell you that. You can copy it. Yeah. So copy it is basically you wanted to make a clone of the existing job. It can do that. Right. Okay. Now you want to do just the test this time and apply save it. So I have a job ready with the Maven process. So if I go and hit it again, you see here there is a API call which goes on, right? There's a API call with a GET request which came back with a status call 201. Actually, technically it's a RESTful call. So RESTful call went on and you're seeing this is running right now. So which means I'm hitting it remote. Right, simple as it is. But technically, that's basically what I don't want to do it, just hitting from the another URL, correct? My request will be something if you know Postman. So I can do it from a Postman as well, right? So if you have a Postman, I can go and have a request, add a request, right? And build it, which can help me to automate it. Jenkins itself an automation server, Babu, then why we need to automate it? The fundamental thought is I don't want to keep managing Jenkins. I don't want to log into my Jenkins, put in a scheduler. Hey, whenever I want, okay, I'm going for lunch. Let me do this and go. By the time when I come back from the lunch, right, my job should have been run and ready, right? Maybe I want to archive a folder, or I want to run my Selenium test, or I want to do a database cleanup, or I wanted to maybe do some Java process which may be running compiling all my Spring Boot code base. Something you want to do in between as a job, but you don't know when you're going for lunch. It depends on when your spouse really calls you and give you a food, right? So you don't have a choice, right? You wait until she's calling you. So you cannot keep tell Jenkins to do that. So when I don't know, automate that, right? When you're about to go, you just hit a button and go. That should help you to do that, right? So how do we do it? If I want to hit a Jenkins job from here and I go and save it, and remember, you remembered here, a lot of people mistakenly understand this. So if you see here, it is a get call, not a post call. It is not create because you will not have access to write it. You get only get call, right? So I go and do a get and put the same URL what we did here, copy this. You actually don't need the permission. If you wanted to restrict with a permission, let's go on hit this right now. This will go on hit it. You got 201. The next request would have gone. Now bill number 3 would have gone right now. Yeah, it's happening. But Babu, I don't want to leave the permission. I should not allow people to really have it. Then is there an option for me? Control it. Only people with the permissions and the username and password of Jenkins should do it. Yes, you can do that. Go back and check this option, save it, right? So come back and go and add your authorizations, right? So you can add authorization or you can pass the URL, username, password right here in Chrome. You guys know that also. Some of you would have seen that, right? So I have something like this, right? So I think I had Babu Poland. I think something. So username, Poland, password. So which will be the option for you? So go ahead and hit it, and then that should help you. Right now, this is everybody cannot hit it. Only the person who knows the username and password authenticating the system can. So you can also pass in the username password right here also. That's absolutely okay. Okay, is it all clear for all of you? So there is a ways. So you can do this. The next thing I want to show you here is how do we do this? Now we learned already remote job, 2 different ways to remote it. Running from the browser, invoking Jenkins from the Postman, and I want to show you how to run this from a Slack or a Gmail. This is the most useful component. The third portion is the most useful component use case for the remote job execution. Very, very useful, right? We do almost all times, right, with the Slack in place. But fundamentally, there is a problem. You have Jenkins. If you have to learn this now, I have my Jenkins running locally. But Slack is a public server. Slack is a public server. It is not managed by you. It is a maybe running in Singapore for me, right? So we don't have a Slack server sitting on your local machine, right? So with that said, the Slack need to talk to this particular Jenkins. Slack is on the public domain, and your Jenkins should be also accessible from the public domain. Unless both can talk to each other from a public API, you cannot do it. So which means if it is configured this locally, it cannot happen. Else, if you are doing that in your office network, make sure you have an IP address. That IP address you should be able to connect. Maybe it is in your, you all use VPN to connect to your office network, correct? How many of you do that? So if you do a VPN access to connect to your customer network or your office network, to do that, then you have an access to that IP address, and Jenkins will be staying in a particular server IP address, then you should be able to do it. But to make you understand what did I do is I already booted this morning one of the AWS server. So I booted an AWS EC2 mission, which is basically a 1 GB free mission. Anyway, DevOps team will learn AWS basics. So you see here, you got this public IP address right here. So the public IP address of this Windows 1 GB mission where I'm running, I installed the JDK in the morning, and I also I just set everything only this morning, and then I went on to install the JDK and Jenkins and brought the Jenkins on. Jenkins is up and running right now. So Jenkins is available for us to access it. I already opened the firewalls for all of you. So don't hit it. If you all hit it, I think my machine will choke. So right now I have an IP address which is running right now. The port is still 8080. So I have a Jenkins right now up and running. So let me log in. So I have a simple username and password, both I think admin. So I have got everything set. Okay, now my Jenkins is remotely available, can be accessed. So can you all confirm? I think everybody don't have to confirm, but some of you can hit and confirm. This you all can access my Jenkins from your home right now. Can you all confirm it is coming up? You don't have to log in, hit anything. Don't do that. My server will go down because it is just a 1 GB RAM system. But technically, it's public open, the firewall open, so hence everybody can start looking at this. Now, what I'll do is I'll go and set up a Maven job, right? This time, right? So okay, maybe freestyle job because I was not keen to set up a Maven job in this mission because it is, I don't want to put all the plugins, maybe, right? I'll start with something like a remote Maven job, simple one, and go with this, right? Not a Maven job technically, right? But I wanted to run the jet, maybe not even a jet, very simple, straightforward component, right? So I want to do that. But I'll allow you to talk to my remote job. So if you have to talk to my remote job, it should look something like this, right? So you have to copy this one, and this is going to look something like this. Slash, you have to put build, right? And then followed by token. So I'm going to put build token remote 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to put this as a token and go and so let's do remote 1, 2, 3, apply it, save it. And now people can hit me right? So can one of you hit me that I'll send the URL? Don't do that, everybody, please. So maybe one of you, right, can hit and confirm. Just one. Okay, say done. Nobody hit it? Okay, now when you hit it, right, and this is, I think, I know this third one is running, this first two, or what did I do in the morning? So somebody gave it and came back. Response will not come from there because I did not do anything. Just went on to it, right? I could able to understand who is hitting me, right? So I was able to see it also. So I think couple of you were interested to hit and see what happens. I think 2 requests came. So are we good? Clear? So which means remotely we were able to hit and get it, got exposed, right? Now I want to show you how do we do it in Slack. Okay. So if you don't have a Slack, don't worry about it. Don't worry. I think somebody is keen, interested to keep hitting me. So no problem. Okay. All right. Right. Let me go to Slack. I already have a Slack channel just for your learning purposes. I have a different Slack for my bills with the customer. So I have a Slack, simple Slack where I have Jenkins build. So inside this, I need to first add the apps. So I go click on this and I have an integration. I have to go to the app, add an app. So already I have installed something called slash command. What is slash command? Slash command is an app for you to run some terminal commands. So I go to the slash command, click on the configuration, and that brings me the web, public web where I can configure. So I went on to do that, right? Ajay, keep waiting and I'll answer all your questions. Don't worry. So let's go to the configuration. And inside the configuration, I can create one and look at it. I'm going to call something called deploy. You can have any keyword. Let me call as build, right? And then come back and tell the IP address here. And the IP address should be something like this, right? So we had a different name if I'm right. So what was the name we had? I gave you that link. I'm going to copy that same link and put it right back to the slash command. So it's going to go and hit HTTP, the IP address, port number, job, remote Maven job is the name of the job, build is your resources, token equal to remote one. And request is going to be get, right? This is an internal reference token, no problem. So all done. So let's go and save this right now. So the integration is saved. This is a one-time activity that you have to do it. Then you come back, once done, close this, come back to the slash command. And in the slash command, I go to my Jenkins build. So to remember, I did slash build, right? This is my custom command, right? Enter. So as soon as I hit this, if I come back and take a look at my remote Maven job, there should be a request which should really get me right here. You see, I got it recently now, 10:20. This is basically the time on this machine, 10:20 got a request. Let's do one more time and make sure we got it. This, okay. Please don't do it right now. There are people hitting me, don't do that. So that we will not able to differentiate between my hit and yours. Okay, don't do that. Okay, let's go back and hit one more time to get if it is really working, right? So let me go and go to the Slack, and I have to say slash build, right? And then you go, okay. So I do it at the comfort of my app, which can help me to trigger a build, right? Is that clear? So that makes much more easier for me to do it from anything. It could be from Jira, or it could be from your Teams, or anything you should be able to do it, triggering the Jenkins job remote. Okay, all right. So with that said, we learned what is a remote job all about and how do we configure it, how to run it from the browser, or how to run from Postman, or how to run from another systems applications like Slack or Jira. That gave us pretty much a good idea about the remote job. Okay, you got 10 minutes timeline to create a remote job. As if you wanted to copy it, you can also click on the new item and you can say copy from, right, which will automatically come from the previous copy. For example, I have a job called remote Maven job. Let me use my local, might be a little easy. So for example, if you go to a dashboard, I have something called remote Maven job already. I wanted to make a copy of it. So what I can do is I have an option at the bottom, copy from template remote. So you can call this remote job, Maven job, make a copy of it. So I can say copied version of remote Maven job, something like this. So you can take one of your remote Maven job and then do it. They'll make a copy of exact copy of what it is. All the source code will be there. Your build triggers, whatever you did, will be there, and it's just going to be pretty much easy for you to clone it. Okay, so you please clone it, run a remote job, and with that said, we can do it. Right. Okay, is that clear?
Yeah, clear.
Okay, go ahead. And Ashwin, to do that with Microsoft Teams, you should have a Microsoft Teams admin access, right? And for configuring this implementation, I may not have it locally right now. So if you are a DevOps admin planning to integrate with Microsoft Teams, then you have to go to the Microsoft admin.microsoft.com. If you're using 365, there you have an option for you to set up the RESTful API. Okay, so I may not have it right now with my my infra team has it, so I may not able to show it. Then, yeah. If I find some videos around this, I'll share it to you, or we'll capture to our admin. Okay,
Babu, one quick question, Babu. Able to hear my voice?
yes.
So from the console output, how can I identify the trigger came from Postman or Slack or browser?
So basically, what you will not know what source it came from, but you will know that it is a resource coming from the remote job. Okay, so in case if you go to this build right now, and this was triggered. And if you go and take a look at it, you will understand that this is coming from which particular IP address. All that information can be captured. Okay, but you
Okay.
are not able to understand what is the endpoint it came from. Meaning endpoint meaning which I may be hitting from my Postman or from a Java code or from a Teams. You may not able to see.
Okay.
Okay, and Balaji said, okay, and the bin/Java, if you look at it, that's a problem. Your folder is not set right. You see here, Balaji, TK, and you look at the path, JDK path, you have given until bin/Java, I think. It's not the right folder. So can you make sure your Java home is correctly set?
Yeah, it's correctly set. So do we
It's
need to
set
mention
until
bin or we need to remove it?
You have until bin or you have until 1.8.0?
Basically, I have both 1.8 as well as 11.
No. In your Java home in Jenkins, what is the path you have? Did you set Java home in your Jenkins?
Under global tool configuration.
Correct.
Right? No, I haven't set it actually.
Can you
So
set?
yesterday for a normal job, it was working fine. But today for a Maven job, it's throwing an error.
You set it until JDK, the path, and put it under your Java home. Put this under Java home.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I'll do it.
And there were a couple of questions. Ajay has asked a question. How to make it private or restrict to a limited group with the credentials? So the fundamental thought here is basically you can create your own users first. Right, Ajay, to answer your question, you can create a user for automation team, one user, development team, another users. You can have a common user, share the user credential. That's the simplest approach you can start with. Okay. And
Got it, Babu. Sorry to interrupt you. Like while accessing that URL itself, it should pop up the credentials, right? Like how we do that.
so that is what it'll, because you are hitting through a RESTful API. It is not hitting through a HTTP through browser, correct?
Okay.
If you are doing through HTTP browser, you can go to Jenkins itself and trigger. No. What is the fundamental advantage of going and using a remote job?
I mean, if multiple users using the same machine don't want to access the Jenkins machine every time, right? So they can navigate this URL.
They are not accessing the Jenkins machine. They are only using browsers to access it. So, for
Correct,
example,
correct.
you are logged into my Jenkins, correct? If you do it, everyone can log into my AWS Cloud Jenkins. Possible?
Yes, it's possible now.
But you are not going to access my machine, right?
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
only
that is right, Babu. Like even accessing this machine now it is public. Is it possible to uh, make it private? Like every time it should ask the credential, even accessing for this public machine.
it will ask you when you try accessing my one. It will ask you for it. Can you try?
Yeah, let me try.
It will ask you for permission. You cannot come in just like that.
No, it is not. It is not asking now. It's directly navigating.
Wait, it's not asking me. Is it not asking? Jenkins not asking for the
Credentials, yes.
huh? So you cannot do anything with this remote job right now. So I can give you an option for you. You will end up in like this only. So you cannot do anything with that job currently. I can also because I think I have enabled anonymous one. So let me go to the Jenkins, local Jenkins without settings. I can change it from here. Just a second. Dashboard. You try now. Hitting it. And try now.
Yeah, now it's asking credentials.
The reason is I have opened, as I told you, I've opened my configure global security and said allow anonymous read access. Hence, everybody was able to do it. Now, unchecked it and shown you. Now, you should be able to do that.
Got it, Babu. Thank you.
Okay, next question I have is from Krishna. In Jira, do we comment the command under the user story or subtask? Yes, absolutely. You can put a comment. As soon as you put a comment, the comment through the Jira RESTful API. I think you know, Krishna, how the RESTful API in Jira get called at the back end, correct? So what we do is we capture the RESTful API, which will trigger the Jenkins job internally. Okay, any other questions people have? Jagan, there is no option to add the token name inside the configure, right? There is no option there. The token name or token number should be passed as a query parameter in the RESTful API, not in the configuration.
Babu, one question. So in the Slack channel, right, the one which you showed the demo is like in a single channel, we can trigger a particular job. Is it possible in the same channel we can trigger multiple jobs like with multiple builds?
No, actually, the app only supports only one call. You cannot have more than one call.
Okay. Okay.
Unless I've experimented, I'm not 200% sure, but there's only one option you can have in the integration.
Okay.
If that particular slash command allows only one. Maybe we can create multiple. Configuration allows only one. Yeah, maybe you can create multiple. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. That, by the way, it gives you option to, yeah, you can.
Okay. Thanks, Babu.
Okay, any other question?
Babu, the token is something which I have to take from global security, configuration global security.
The token number is from your remote job that you are setting up. If you go to the source code, sorry, to the build triggers, you have an option right here, right? This is a token.
Can I share my screen for a moment? Because I'm not seeing the checkbox which is available in global security, config global security.
Okay. Okay. How do we do one upstream project? Let me give a use case for that, so to understand. So I'm making sure you get a comfortable understanding from a real-time project as well. That's why I'm giving you a lot of use cases. So for example, the first one, scheduler, I gave you a lot of use cases. Number two, I also gave you a use case for the remote job. Now it is for the third one, upstream project. For example, if you are a developer, I believe you are a, let's say you are a front-end developer. You are designing React.js code base. But React.js code base cannot run by itself. It should wait for the API development to happen. So I am technically waiting for the API development code base to be available and ready in my machine, and only upon which I will able to do it. For an API developer, maybe I need a DB for API to validate or something like that, or infra to be done, something like that. So when I'm dependent on some other project, then that dependent project become an upstream project. If you are an automation engineer by work right now or a test engineer by work right now, you become dependent on the development build. So when you build you are dependent on, that need to be created before your build or before your test can run. So in such cases, it is called upstream project. So your development, if you're a tester, predominantly most of you are tester, so you make the development build as the upstream project, and your testing automation project will be the downstream project. So what I have to do in that case is I need to create two different projects right now. Let me create a project called a developer project, and let me create a Maven project again and create one. And in this project, assume I'm going to write this is a simple project where you might have a React.js, or it could be a Maven Spring Boot application, or it could be even API automation or API development project, whatever could be it is. Right? Something I'm dependent on, but I'm going to leave it blank for the moment. So you don't have anything except, like, as it's a Maven project, I need to put my local workspace, or I'll put some GitHub workspace. So for example, I'll just leave it like, it doesn't have to be a Maven project also. It can be any simple project as well. But I'll use one of the project, maybe a simple project. Let me go and make it, delete this and make it simple, because I don't have a repo right now with development at the moment. So I'll keep it simple. So I'll create a new freestyle project called developer project. And this is going to be a simple dev project. Assume that this is having a local workspace or a JIT workspace, whatever it is, right? So finally, I'm going to do the Windows commands to, right? So I'm not doing anything. Just assume that I'm just trying to do something. That's all I'm doing, right? So this is my first project, which is a developer project, right? And this developer project is going to tell me that it is done. But once the development project is successful, I want to run my downstream project, which is basically a test automation. So test automation project, let's say it's a downstream. This is a keyword which is used in your Jenkins pipelines or Jenkins systems. So upstreams and downstream, I think you will have already got about it. So I can keep it as a Maven project because we already have a repo in place, right? So source code management, I can pull a JIT and then try to do it, right? So we've got a JIT repo. I think I could have cloned it, but yeah, anyways, I missed that. So /Jenkins. So let's use that itself, the same one what we did as the downstream, right? And I don't need them. Just put that. Go to the build. In the build triggers, what I need to do is I need to run this particular build only when my development project is successful. So in that case, I need to say build after other projects are, where I can watch multiple projects, but I'm going to watch only the developer project. So I say developer project is my project that I'm looking for. And if the developer project is successful, I need to call my project, which is build automation / form.xml, and run my test. So which means I have an upstream project and a downstream project also. So let me go to the developer project and again configure it and make sure this project is technically, if you see this particular project which has been associated. Now if I try to run this project, what will happen is it is interlinked project, which is a downstream project, which is going to be a test automation project. But I'm going to run only developer project. If you see right now, I'm going to run the developer project. But test automation project is going to keep listening to the developer project. If the developer project is successful, then you would see that it is going to trigger your test automation project. You see here, I'm not triggering a test automation project, which is a downstream project. But as the developer project is successful, test automation project is automatically triggered. Is it making sense to all of you? Okay, so I don't have to really tie down so much, right? In real-time projects, this is how each independent projects are built. So you have a stage gate, but the advanced future will be learning in pipeline in week number 2 and 3. So when you have a pipeline, you can write in a single script what are the different stages you want to cross. At this moment, it is going to be more like, right, choosing which one to run first, which one to run second. Okay. Babu, can I have another 2 projects depends on one project? Yes, possible. So I'll also show you another one. Let me clone one of the projects. Let's say I'm going to clone one of my project. Say I'm going to have a REST API automation project. Both front-end automation, which I already have, and the API automation project. What is the name we gave? Forgotten the name, but what's the name we gave?
Test automation.
Test automation.
Test automation.
Test automation. So I'm going to go and make a clone of it, and right now assume this is a REST automation. Right. So we have now 2 projects which is going to be available for us, and both are going to be dependent on the developer project. Even if you go to the REST API project and look at the configure, this is also going to go and wait for whom? In the build triggers, we need to go and check build triggers. It goes and check for the developer. So what happens right now is the system is going to look something like this, right? So I run my developer project. So when something goes right, which is build becomes successful, then it is automatically going to trigger now 2 projects. So which are the 2 projects? Project number 1 is test automation. Let's say it's a Selenium project. And in parallel, it's also going to run the REST API. So 2 projects are going to run based on the success of the developer project. So let me go again to the developer project and hit it and see what happens right now. We are supposed to see once the developer project is successful. You see the build queue? You see the build queue here? So you got 2 projects queued up for the build to happen. So that is what it is, an upstream project and a downstream project. It's all about. Both are running in parallel, not sequentially, which will run, two threads are going to run at the same time. It just makes life very simple, and you don't have to really think so much, and life becomes very simple to configure. So you can build all your downstream project based on an upstream. Okay, did you all get it? Is that all clear for all of you? Yes. So we can set up multiple projects based on a upstream projects. The downstream projects can be built, which is naturally happens in real time. Now, Babu, what should happen if the development project is broken, development project is failed, and the build is not successful? What do you expect to happen? What do you like to see to happen? Do you want the test automation projects to run or not to run? What do you guys think? Okay, mail to team is one of the scenario. We'll see it as we progress today. We will see it as well. Mail to run, which is technically we should see it. But technically, what should happen to the downstream? That's my question to Nawaz and Jag. Right? What is the condition? Right? If the build fails, what should happen? Do you want the test automation should still run or not to run? I think personally, I think you all agree to that. It should not be running, correct? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the developer project. Knowingly, I'm going to make a bug to fail the test or fail the build, right? So I'm going to say like, something like this. So which is going to throw me an error, right? So now watch it very, very carefully. So the build test automation project currently is 2 times it got executed. The REST API automation project got 1 time executed. Now technically I'm going to run the developer project. And when I run this particular project, this is going to fail. So as it is failing, there is no queues built, right? So absolutely no queues built. Right. The reason is very, very simple, because developer project is not successful. Right. Developer project is not successful. So let's go and take a look at it. Now the test is going to go and say, hey, the build obviously failed and the job failed as well, right? We did not do the Maven build, hence it is only at the job level, not the build level though. But if you build a Maven job, you can keep it at that level as well. But still, there is an option for you also. When I build my test automation project, I can go and configure. Hey, I can tell something also to my test automation project. Hey, in my case, how do I want it to work? There are three options given to you. Trigger only if the build is stable. Trigger even if the build is unstable. What is the meaning of build being unstable? The build is created, but maybe the unit test got failed. Some of the unit tests got failed. So trigger even if the build fails. You have got three options. So build can be stable. Build stable meaning what? The build is generated and the unit test passes. That is what it is meant to be, build is stable. The second one is, yes, build got generated, but all of the unit tests did not pass. Can be a second option, unstable. Third option is basically trigger even if the build fails. I want to do it. I am not really dependent. I want to check with him and move on. Maybe something like that, right? So in such kind of scenarios, you can set up based on your need to configure them. Okay. The better use cases for example, is you know that developers may not test all their unit tests. Even if their unit tests, some of them failing, they will push the code to your test environment. Is that true? Yes. Do you all see that? So in such kind of cases, they will configure this, go and do this option, right? So, but sometimes even if the build fails, I still want to do a cleanup. I want to do some cleanup activities, or I want to archive something, or I wanted to publish my logs. I want to do one secondary activity based on the outcome of the first activity. Then that is when you wanted to choose the third option. But in reality, I prefer to choose the first option, which is the right option if test automation have to run based on the development testing. So that's an option for it. Yeah, most of the case developers are going to do to skip the Maven, right? So Maven test. Have you noted most of the cases what Maven they do is they do something like this: Maven deploy -v skip test. Have you seen that? This is what they all do it most of the time. They always run this command in their environment. So they deploy to your test environment by skipping the test. Right. Okay. Now let's see another scenario. Right. The another scenario as maybe as Jagadish asked, what if I have two development projects? For example, I have a project called API development project, and we have a UI development project. I am going to start testing only when both are right stable, something like this. When both are stable, right? So I want to do something like this. So in such kind of scenarios, you will be able to do this also, right? For example, I have, let's go and create a new item. Let me call this as API development project, right? And then go ahead and create some freestyle and then click OK. Now, only when this project is successful, then I want to run my REST API automation project. Only when both happens, both the regular development as well as REST API development happens. I can put a comma here and put a REST API development. So I can mean to say the projects I'm watching. If both the projects are not successful, stable, then one of them fail, then the builders will not. That's technically what I wanted to see, right? If API development fail, but the regular backend, the front end development successful, still the bill will not get paid. Okay, it is an AND condition, not an OR condition. Okay, wow, is that clear so far, guys? To the upstream, downstream options. Anybody having questions? Feel free to ask me now. And in reality, people do not use one option. People use multiple options together. So I will be triggering based on multiple conditions. That's what you will be building as you progress into the pipeline options. When you go to pipeline, we will have a lot of options to build. So at this moment, we are good. So can you all quickly do this, right? The classroom activity will be something like this. So create upstream project. Preferably freestyle to keep it simple. Create a downstream project that depends on upstream. Depends on stream. Right, and confirm when upstream build successful, the downstream auto starts. And also confirm when the upstream fails, the downstream is not starting. Okay, got 10 minutes to do that. So let's watch. If you have trouble, let me record as well. The question you asked is, what is the weather column really giving? The weather column is giving an option for you. Basically, it is sunshine and cloudy. And when you are test on it, depends on the last three history of your project execution. Try to calculate that value. So when it is a sunshine, which means that your last three iterations, three builds have been successful, then it is basically going to be sunshine. So when it is last three has a failures in it, and hence and some of them passed, right? Then in that case, it's going to be cloudy. Okay. So if you watched it in this scenario, you would have had failures as well. That's why it's got cloudy. Got it?
Thanks, Babu.
Okay. All right. The next one we are trying to talk to us right now is, okay, yeah. So just want to show you the cloudy. Maybe I showed the cloudy here. So the cloudy option, because one of them failed in the last three iterations, one of them failed. That's what it is going to be, cloudy. But in this case, when it is a sunshine, if you look at it, it got passed, right? That's the point. Is that making sense? Yes. Okay, brilliant. Let's go to the next one, which is SCM. SCM is basically SCM and webhook goes together, but we'll take one at a time, understand the difference between SCM and the web, right? And which one to use when, or what is most effective, you should know. Now, you all know that in your case, your source code management is being somewhere in Bitbucket or in a JIT or in a TFS. In some form, you maintain your source code, either being a developer or a tester, whatever form you are maintaining somewhere. That code base is being retained, right? Now, the question of interest to us is, how do we ensure that every time a developer makes a code commit or a tester making a code commit, how do I make a build automatically is what we are going to talk about. So the fundamental use case is how to make a build when there is a code change or a commit, whatever you look at it, right? How do we do this? And essential, right? And if that is the case, how do we do that, right? Or in case whatever build we have, right? Maybe we want to see an interval every 3 hours once. Whatever code being done by all the developers, I wanted to pull it and then trigger it. How do we do it, right? So the one of the option which is effective is called SCM, right? So let's go and maybe clone our existing Maven project. That's the easiest way to do it. So let's clone it and understanding SCM trigger. So it's going to be similar to what we learned onto our time-based, schedule-based trigger, but it is going to be helpful for us. So I'm going to take this and make a copy of it, right? Yeah, it is true for any code changes. Any code changes. Code changes can be a new commit, a merge commit, right? Even for a delete, we can do it, right? We can able to do it. Right? So now coming back to source code management, we have a JIT repo already in place, correct? So we are only pulling the code. We are not pushing the code. Please understand, we are only looking at read access. Right. Okay. Now, in the build trigger, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and say I'm going to poll the SCM. Poll SCM is an activity which is going to send an API call to your repo and see if there is a change. If there is a change. So what's going to happen is, in case if you put a schedule right here, the same schedule options what we saw in the previously, the similar schedule, I want to go and see every 10 minutes once. H by 10, start, start, stop. Every 10 minutes I keep looking at. Maybe sometimes this is too much. I don't want to really do it. Maybe I want to do it like every 1 hour once, and maybe that is a preferred option for me. Then I can do it like H by 1. So you see like every 1 hour you wanted to do this, and then instead you do that. Preferably whenever you use the right hand side hedge and the left hand side also preferably with hedge. So which technically means that every 1 hour or every 1 hour once you want to do it, or every 60 minutes you want to do it, also can be an activity that you wanted to put into place. Depends on exactly what you are trying to do it. Right. Now, with that said, I wanted to do eventually a frequency of done for our trial purposes, learning purposes. I'll do it like every 5 minutes, right? I want to do this. So though it looks awkward to do it, but I'll go ahead and keep this like this, right? So this would give us like, I want to do it every time I want to change it, right? So then I want to do this test and apply and save it. Now, technically what's going to happen right now is the first time it's going to go and run the test, right? The first time you have to go and run the test. That's when you start holding the baseline. It will have the baseline and then it will be able to compare based on the baseline. So I go and run the first time build. So that I trigger a build, the workspace will be built here. So .Jenkins, and it goes and finds the workspace, and you got a something SCM trigger. It would have got it. It will run the test and it will do all that stuff right now comfortable. But the problem is going to be that what happens next, right? So should I able to automatically run? There is no code change. Should I still run? May not be required. You don't have to run because you did not make any code changes. Should I really run? Not at all. Don't have to run. So I'm going to keep waiting for the coachings. But what happens right now is, Babu, I want to go and run right now. So you see that the first run has done, baseline is done. I have a GitHub repository. So I'm going to log in to the my Git. Right, let me do that. Log in. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a code change, right? I'm going to make a code change. Let me go and do something very simple. And let me make like, I want to run a parallel. Maybe I want to add a few more tests and then updated the XML one. So what's going to happen in this case is the next time after the completion of the test, from the time it created, right? Where is our job? Right here, right? From the time 49 seconds, right? The next test is going to trigger in 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, what's going to happen is it's going to go to the GitHub repo and ask, was there a change before I asked you, can I see the code changes? If there is no code changes happen within the 5 minutes, no download happens. If there is a code change happen within that 5 minutes interval, then the request is sent and it says, yes, I got a code change. Then it is pulled to the workspace and then it runs the test. Is that making sense to all of you? Is that a sense? Yeah. It is something like this, right? And if I have to tell you from my personal experience, and let's say my spouse is making those, I was really hungry, I want to eat, right? I think I told my spouse, hey, make a dosa, so I have to eat. Now I'm going to do like this, right? I'm going to say, is dosa ready? I'm going to say like, is dosa ready? I'm going to ask her. She says no. Right? You do that every 5 minutes, right? Right? You continue to do this. Maybe at one point of time, she was humble enough to help you, and you got yes. Then you go get the dosa and eat. This is what will happen when you do with the SCM, right? So which means in a given interval of time, there is a request sent to the GitHub and the response is received. Based on the response, you try downloading or returning so much. So that is exactly what will happen in this scenario. So we will wait for the 5 minutes, 5:10 we ran. So 5:15 around that time, there is going to be another request sent because we said our configuration says every 5 minutes once it's technically supposed to run. Right. The next one should be 5:17. Huh? Where does it say 6:5? 6:5? Is that something wrong? Why did it say 6:5? Maybe sorry, that's my fault, right? So I should have done like h by 5. That's bad. So now it should be 5:15. Did you all understand? So maybe I set it up wrong. So next one is 5:15 is what when the job trigger should happen. So when it is 5:15, the request will send to the GitHub API, and GitHub API will come back and say, yeah, there is a change. So I'll download it. You see here? So 5:15 trigger went, and the trigger is going to go and download. You'll see that console output download happened, and there is a change, so which is going to run the test. Is that super clear for all of you? Now, this is quite expensive call. So we have to see what is a better option for us to do it, right? But still this works. This absolutely works, but it's very, very expensive because you have to make too many calls. Let's say it is you put every 5 minutes or every 30 minutes. What if it is on a Sunday, there is a code change. Developer made a code change on a Sunday because he was working. Or somebody's not working on a Monday to Wednesday because there was a public holidays, right? Which Jenkins will not know that is a public holiday, correct? Do you all agree with me? But still Jenkins will keep asking JIT, hey, was there a code change? Was there a code change? Was there a code change? It's too much expensive call to keep asking. It is like literally I go and ask my wife, hey, where is the dosa? Where is the dosa? I think I'll not get dosa in a day. That's a pain, correct? So it's like you're not giving the space for people to react, right? So even though she's not willing to build it, you keep asking it, right? That's how it is looking like, right? And that's how the SCM trigger is going to work. Okay, so yes, you can combine. You can absolutely combine the activities. Okay, now let's also see an option right now. I wanted all of you to see that. Right, in the scenario of what happens in the next test is going to be at 5:20, right? So I'm going to say like 2 minutes or something like this, and I want run at 5:18. At 5:18, the test should run, and let's see what happens, right? So you will understand and differentiate how webhook is different between the SCM. This will give you a very good clarity. Balaji, as I told you, it is possible to combine. You do both the checkboxes, it will work for you. Okay, we'll wait for 5:18. Balaji, did I answer your question? So what happens is when your developer is making a new build, between test automation engineer also made a new code change. So when the new build is ready, development build is ready and deployed, test automation script will be triggered. And when the test automation script is triggered, it will pull the latest code from the JIT and run it. Is that making sense?
Yes, Babu. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, now this 5:18, right? 5:18, right? That's what our test should have really run. But you saw that 5:18, there was no test trigger. Did you all notice that? Right? Did you all notice that? So why there was no code pull did happen or no trigger? Why we did not get any update? Because there was no code change. But the request would have been sent. The request would have been sent like this, right? Those are ready. It says no, there was no, I didn't have a pattern, right? So it waits, right? In this case, it's going to be wait change. But when there is a code change, the code will get executed downward. Is that making sense? All of you understood this SCM webhook? Okay, to make sure you practice that, I wanted all of you to practice that to become comfortable. So what you can do is if you go and clone my, if you already cloned my Jenkins GitHub, it's good. If you are not cloned it, clone it. Right? Create a job with SCM poll for every 5 minutes. Right? First time baseline it, run it. Right? And then what do you do? Make a code change in the JIT, either from Eclipse, if you're comfortable to do from Eclipse, yes. But if it is not, then go log in to the github.com, make a code change. Krishna, that is what we are going to learn from webhook. Because there is a difference between SCM plugin. SCM plugin is the one which came first. So it is like what I told you. I think, do you think this is a good idea to go and keep asking your wife, right, is the food ready? Right, in reality, what would be the right strategy you would have followed? What is the right strategy? If you guys understood this right, so I would have preferred what I would have, where is that? I think I closed it. Okay, in my case, right. So instead of asking your wife, going to the hotel, okay, preferred option is prepare yourself. Yeah, I think these are all options, right? But here is what I would recommend you to do it, right? Tell your wife, please inform when food is ready. So what she will do, she will inform you, right? Maybe after 30 minutes or 25 minutes or whatever minutes, those are ready, then you react. So this is the preferred option, correct, for this solution, correct? So you will be learning this using webhook. This is what webhook is all about, Krishna. So you have to wait for you to learn webhook, then better. Okay. So, but whereas SCM is very different. SCM is like you keep asking your spouse, is the food ready? Food ready? You have to keep asking. That's a old technique. The newer technique is you better do this. You don't have, as basically Valli said, you have to come back home anyways, even if you eat outside. Correct. Okay. Right. Brilliant. So are we good? So create a clone a Jenkins GitHub if you have done it well and good. Create a job, SCM poll, 5 minutes baseline run it. Make a code change in JIT, either from Eclipse or manually. Make a code change and confirm trigger. Confirm the job is done. Okay, 10 minutes. Super 10 minutes. Go. So whenever there is a code push, I wanted to have a webhook call. So you can configure this. So the configured webhook from the JIT or to your Bitbucket will send a RESTful API call to your Jenkins. Jenkins will receive it. As soon as it receives it, it will go and pull the code and then start working. So for which there is a problem. One of the problem is now you should have your Jenkins accessible for the post call, which means you need to make it public. You cannot keep it private, like it cannot run on a local machine like what you're doing, then it cannot reach out, correct? So you should have an IP address which is reachable from external world where you can be able to send the request. But if you are using the SCM poll, you don't have to, because you need an outward internet service. You don't need an inward internet service, right? So hence what happens in this scenario is you from Jenkins sending a request to the JIT and asking what's the record change is requiring only external internet access. But for anyone else to reach your machine should have an incoming public access, for which unless your Jenkins is accessible, either it could be intranet or internet, it should be accessible outside your system. So unless you do that, you cannot do it. For example, I go to my github.com, right? And let me log into my github.com and go to the project. When I go to the project, there is something called, you have to go log in and click on the settings. We have something called webhooks. So in the webhooks, if you try adding the webhook and tell the payload URL, which is your Jenkins URL, which is going to get the post request. Now, if you put this http://localhost, oh, this localhost is pointing to what? Correct? It is your mission. But how does github.com will go to its localhost, correct? So now the problem is, unless your machine has a public IP exposed, or unless your network has a public IP to get the request and route it to you, you don't have a choice. So I have to set it something like this. In such case, if you see my Amazon machine, I can set up myself to do that. For example, I can go and webhook myself into my Amazon IP address, and that's my Jenkins which is running. And I can say I want the request to be in application JSON. I can put a secret code for its communication to be very private. You can say whenever there is a code push, only when there is a push, you trigger the webhook. Send me everything is something, even if somebody is getting the class files or any files from the GitHub, I can send the request. So you can see which events you want to do it. For example, branch creation, or specifically somebody is trying to run it, or you are trying to delete something, you're deploying keys. You will be able to choose based on your requirement, based on which it will run. So this is fundamentally the idea of the webhook. So webhooks are basically designed at the level of your code repo. Code repo will send the events back to your Jenkins to communicate, hey Jenkins, I got a new code change in my repo. Do you want to do something out of it? So technically that is what it is. Hey Jenkins, I got a delete. So I want to ensure your codes are going good. Do you want me to start running a test? So it is something like, instead of I keep asking, I expect my other side of the member to help me to communicate, hey, I got a change, do you want to do something, right? That's a fundamental thought about the webhooks. So in a real world, webhooks are very efficient than doing the Polisium. Is that understandable to all of you? Yes. But the downside of this is, for practice, when you're doing a practice, make sure your Jenkins should be available not locally, right? So for example, I have to now let me show you how to do this. So I've got my AWS instance up. So I should take a minute to deploy all the plugins. I didn't install the plugins. Unless I have the plugins, I'll not able to do it. So I'm going to take another minute. It's going to take a minute for my plugins to get deployed. I have to restart the Jenkins. Then I will go and receive all the events. Going to take a minute. So meanwhile, can you all understand, ask me any questions that you guys have related to the webhooks? I'll show you a demo before we go to the email. I don't think you will be able to practice webhook. Maybe next week we can set up an AWS box for all of you. And once you set up your AWS box, maybe you can have your Jenkins public. In such case, you will be able to connect with the GitHub. Is that fine, all of you?
Babu, in AWS, do we need to install Jenkins?
You need to install Jenkins. The reason why we chosen AWS is because your Jenkins can be public.
Yep.
Looks like my machine is 1 GB machine, and it's becoming quite slow. Should be able to extract shortly. I'll keep waiting.
Babu, are there all version controls would have webhook concepts?
Yes, every even Bitbucket, if you go, GitLab, you go, you'll have a webhook for sure. 100%. Okay, any other question? I may need few more minutes for my plugins to get ready. Then we will get to see the webhooks. Any
Will
other
there be same settings like we seeing in the GitHub? Same in the
very
Bitbucket
similar,
server?
very similar. Yeah.
One question, like Jenkins has to be mandatory, it should be in public, or we can set up a common network or something.
You can, if you are using your own version controlling system like SVN locally, correct?
Yeah.
For example, in your office network, then you can, as long as you could expose your SVN to talk to Jenkins internally in the internet IP, you're good. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, Bob.
Okay, anybody else? Any other question?
Babu, can you show the syntax for the webhook? URL, then
URL, then you have to choose what you want to do, the content type, how you got the response from this. So it can be two options where you get URL encoded format or a JSON format. And if you are very specific about you want only push is the preferred option, any code changes, then you can do that.
okay.
So, Babu, can we do this in a branch specific?
Yeah, you can. If you are very specific about the branch, select the events, and you can be very particular about which branch you want to look at. Only when the branch is so and so, you can do that. Okay, so I think it's taking a little time. So we will go to the next step, come back to the step as we progress. Okay. The next one is basically sending an email. So I wanted to send an email based on your action. For example, the job is successful or failure. I wanted to send an post action or sometimes pre action also. I'm going to send a note to my development group saying that, hey, job is started running. It may take about 30 minutes to complete, and meanwhile, you guys can look at the logs, something like that. For a test automation team or even for dev team, once the job is complete, you can send an email to your entire crew saying that the build is deployed, that the test ran fine, or these are all the results of the test, or something like that. You can keep it under your post actions. So let's see one of the email. Before going to the email, couple of things you have to look at it. Number one, go to the dashboard and click on your manage Jenkins. So within the manage Jenkins, what you have to do, you have to go and set up your email configuration. Set up your email configuration. Go to configure system. So we have not used configure system so far. We have been using only global tool and security for the moment, and manage plugin, of course. So click on the configure system where you have to set your email configurations, which can help you to do that. Okay, and looks like my machine is slowing down.
Babu, with our IPv4 address, Jenkins is public only, right?
Which one? No, my local host is not public, right?
With IPv4 address, we can access.
See, whatever IPv4 what you get, this is only what you will get into your local. You cannot connect with me. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, yeah, Babu. Actually, I tried with this 172 like that. With 8080, I can access the Jenkins.
You can access it from your local, but I cannot access it because this is your local network.
Okay.
இப்போ நீங்க இதுக்கு பதிலா இதை போட்டீங்கன்னா உங்களால தான் access பண்ண முடியும். I cannot access yours.
Okay.
You understood?
Yeah, got it.
It's not a public. Okay, coming back. Okay, so where are we? So we are supposed to send an email, right? So now if you come back to the configure option right at the bottom of this one, where you would have to have the email configurations, right? So let's go down a bit and look at our email configurations, right? So you have something called extended email notifications where you have to configure all this different information for your email to go, right? First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a very simple one. I'm going to use a Gmail. Okay, the same thing you can do with Outlook 365. How many of you using Office 365 for your projects? Right, you can do that for Office 365. If you guys are using any company Gmail, right, you can have a company Gmail, you can use it. If you're using anything other networks, you should be able to do it, right? So because it is a public training and I cannot use my official email address to do that, so I'm going to take a personal Gmail to try to show you how this works, right? But officially it's going to be very, very similar in this case also, right? So now come back to this and I'm going to go and use my personal email address to go and hit it and try to do it. So all that first you have to do is, if you are trying to use, you find what is the Gmail SMTP, because there is an email need to be sent from your mailbox to this particular machine. For a temporary purpose, what you can do is you can create a dummy email for learning this if you are uncomfortable about using your personal email. But nothing harm, as long as you are not sharing your Jenkins to somebody, nobody will know other details. So I'm going to just set the Gmail SMTP settings. So this is going to be like this, right? smtp.gmail.com. That's a option. So I'm going to go type here smtp.gmail.com, and the 587 is the outgoing SMTP port for you. Paste this, and a lot of people forget this, right? The one day advance, click on the advanced, and you have to put the username and password, SMTP username and password for your machine. But remember, if you're putting a username and password for your machine, and make sure it is not having two-factor authentication. If it has a two-factor authentication, the system will not work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a dummy Gmail just to show this for you. So by which we can quickly get on things, right? I can be happy to give you something easier for you, right? Testing@gmail.com. Looks like I may not have this mail, hopefully. Yeah, so I'm going to, somebody has it. So somebody is using on my friend. Okay, let's see if I could do something. Right, let me create something like this, babuyam.s3@gmail.com. Oh, it's taken. Okay, brilliant. Oh, okay, this is there. Okay, all right. So I'm going to keep it simple. Tester at 123, tester at 123. Just make sure you guys can see the password and help me to remember it too. So I'm going to go and create something. So it's asking me no phone number. I'm not going to give it just as a testing, right? So I'm going to keep it like, okay, 10, 19. So I'm pretty old, so never mind. And then go ahead and we are almost there, done. Oh, okay. But we are not able to log in maybe, but I want to do some settings also. Okay, Pradeep, I don't know about sharp lasers, but I'll keep an eye on that. Okay, so I'm almost done in creating a Gmail account. But what you have to do here is the Gmail account, you have to go to the account settings, right? And do something with the managing the Google account. So now when you do with the managing Google account, you have to go to the security, because we are going to have an API call, because the email is going to go and hit you. Make sure two-step verification is not there. And then you have to also go ensure, right, and turn on the less secure apps, so that through API we can access the Gmail. So I did two things, remember very carefully. I created my Gmail account. I went on to my settings and manage Google account and made sure my security is having two-step verification off, switched off. That's one thing I did. and then I ensured my less secure apps is turned on so that I can go and do this, right? So they good. So I did these two things to do it. I'll come back to my SMTP username. Remember, forgot the password. I'm very old to remember. Okay, copy this. So the password, I think it was pretty straightforward. We did tester at 1, 2, 3, correct? And I'll use SSL. So this is what I will allow to do it. So you wanted to use an email prefix, something like that, you can do it. Default content type, I'm going to keep it like HTML because my email might have some color codes or themes or signatures, which can be good. The default recipients I'm going to receive is going to be, I'm going to send it to my official mail ID also as a copy. Reply to list, basically. Also, I'll leave it as it is, nothing going to be there. Default subject is bill status. This is going to auto generate, and maximum attachment size is -1, which means you can have as much size possible, but still depends on your Gmail may not allow you too many, your Outlook may not allow you too many too, but it's not going to be too big anyways. We'll get some kind of build URL also as part of it. We are super good with this. And then come back and then almost done with this. Look at the default trigger when you want to do it. So remember it carefully. Default trigger can be always. I just want to start with always, not only on failures. So I get an email irrespective of success and failures. I save this pretty good. I created my email configuration. All that is super good. So I set up my email. I have my email configuration all done. Super good. So what I'm going to do is I open one of my project, which I have already in place. So, and go to that particular project first and configure. And inside the configure, I'm going to go all the way down to send an email, right? So you can go ahead and say post build action, and you can go and say, I want to have an editable email notification. And in the editable email notification project from, so you can, if you see the project from, it's going to tell you, allow the user to, who is the publisher, who is sending you the node, can be also looked upon, right? So let's say Babu, and default recipients is already configured in your template. So you can say default to default content type, all this. If you want to do something extra, you can go and override that template also right here. So it is going to always send to a $% recipient list right here. So that's absolutely okay. Save this and let's see what happens right now. So I'm going to go and build. So now if you see the build now is going to go and run this particular one, and after completing the entire test, build becomes successful. The post action is going to send email from your personal email address that you configure to the recipients who are likely to get it. So which means there's an automated email which gets triggered. So this is going to run some Selenium test, and then finally it's going to do that basically. Now the build is successful because all test is done successfully, compile done. Next install should happen, right? And then all good. Now it's supposed to send the email right now. Sending email and okay, it says not sending mail to unregistered user, no reply at github.com because the resume client was associated with the ID no reply, which is, and then it's sent to Babu, sending email to babu@testleaf.com. So I think I should technically receive an email. So let me check my email on the other machine and check if I got something. Okay, not yet. And I can look at the logs and check the emails have come. I've not received it yet. Maybe it takes a little time to come out of the Jenkins through the Gmail boxes to come back. Okay, so we will anyway wait and check, and meanwhile you all can set up the similar editable email options so that you can complete the activity before you leave today. So where you have to do, go to the configure systems and make sure you're doing it right. Yeah. Under the email option, editable email notification, right here. So remember this and do this, and remember advanced is super important. Unless you do that, you don't get to see it. Okay, and super good. Okay, give it a try, then we will again chop. So sometimes if something is going wrong with email, the easiest option for all of you is set up all this information as you did before, right? And make sure default user can be like the same user ID I'm using, right? Email prefix, right? So suffix. So email suffix is gmail.com. Content is okay. These are all okay. And in case if you want to check if it is really working or not, you can do a test configuration. I can send to the same mail ID of myself and check if it's really working by doing this. Test the configuration. And able to do that by doing test configuration. It can tell you if something is going wrong, then you will get it. Connection refused. So this says could not connect to the local host 2560,000. Okay, and transfer. Okay, maybe what is the port number? Connection refused. I'll take a look. Meanwhile, you can continue to configure. Something wrong with the configuration. Yeah.
To get this extended email notification, we need to have added the plugin, right?
Yes, you should. I sent a note before you joined, right? I sent everything in WhatsApp, right?
Yeah.
The benefit of people. So the one mistake we did in this particular scenario is I've not, when configuring I thought it is not required because that's how it was. I do remember. So in this scenario, what we did, where did we write it? In the other one. So the email configuration, you need to configure at 2 places, not at 1 places. That's what exactly we had. We had some benefits. Just a second. Which project did I configure? So we got an email right here, which is configured here. So in this scenario, let's go back to the configuration of the extendable email in the configure system, and then go all the way. The one of the mistake I did is I configured only one place. It was looking for both the places. So come down and you see on the extended email notification, SMTP, Gmail, HTML component, recipient, all this. So let me change the recipient to go to my personal itself so that I don't have to really watch out. Like gmail.com, and then all good. Default subject I'm not changing, default content I'm not changing. But what did I do is in the email notification I did not configure. So where also it is configured with advanced the username and password again. Use SSL 465. If you're using TLS, I think 900 and odd, right? That's a number. So you do the test first by sending an email to yourself, right? And by the way, that would be the easiest approach you can check. I'm going to test it. If the email is successfully sent, I go back and check. I'm supposed to have an email here, right? I got a test email 10, which is sent from the Jenkins. That's a build number or a test number. You come back with this and let's go back to the remote Maven job, which has been configured to send an email, right? So if we go to the one more time to the workspace and do the build now, this time when the build is successful, I should also get an email with the build number, build details. That's what I'm expecting to happen. Okay, super good. Please confirm to each one of you if you got that done. Okay. If anybody having trouble, let me know.
Yeah, one doubt.
Sure.
Yeah, the email notification has been sent to particular email ID, but we see like the project name and the build number, build status are not actual values. So it is just giving the kind of the variable so that we provide provide it.
At runtime, if in the test versus real Maven build, you will see a difference. If it is a test, it will not know, right?
No, it's a real trigger. It's not a test one.
No, you will get it right. You will get it for sure right. Just give me a second.
I share in a chat. I'm getting just the name, project name, build number, build status, but not the exact values. Not sure if I miss any configuration here.
Okay. Can you share the screen? Let me in. See, when you put a dollar, dollars are going to be from the Groovy, and the Groovy is going to go and run it directly for you. That's what exactly what will happen here. So somebody was asking for configuration of the project. Yeah, if you got the build name correctly, you are done, Krishna. So it should look like this. The post build action should look like this, which will automatically, I changed this for my own purpose. Rest all automatically should be filled based on the template that you're using.
Yeah, okay, let me check.
Look at the logs once and see it. Anybody else got it successful? Only one or two? Vidya, if you are getting authentication error, something to do with your Gmail one. So I should have got the email right now. Oh, okay. For me also it is coming project name. Why it is coming as the project name? Looks like Groovy is not passing me. Okay, and let's check. Okay, I'll check this alone and keep you guys posted why the default project name is not coming correct, but I have to check myself. Even for me, it is throwing like this. But who are completed, I think Krishna said he's getting right. Karthik, are you getting it right with the project name and the build number on your email box? Okay, so it should be something to do with your email. How does your test email recipient got it? In the test, was it correct or not? The email was sent successfully is fine. Did you get the template something like this? So, or for me, it is getting something like this. It didn't give me the entire project name correctly, which means the project name is not correctly passed. I think it is because of the environment variables not set. Let me check. That's truly because of the environment variables not set correctly. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, environment variables. Yeah, why? So try with the environments variable checked mark. So I think I did not check it. Let's do it with the check now. Okay, if you're getting an email without the Groovy values not properly passed, then check the environment variables. That's it. Actually, the project name, build number, all these are all environment variables. At runtime, it will be passed and sent. Okay, go to your dashboard. Go to your manage Jenkins. Go to your configure systems. We'll see an environment variables options. Check in the global properties. Still it didn't, looks like it did, or was that, yeah, looks like. I'll check anyways what is the problem we are getting. It should have passed somewhere. We'll check. I'll check and let you guys know about this alone. Okay, let's take a stop here, and then whoever have a problem, we will resolve it and let go. Okay, at least email you should receive. Okay, we'll take a pause here. Okay, all right. Whoever got an email, well and good, you can leave for today. Whoever did not get an email, stay back, work with me, get done, and then we can move forward. Okay, perfect. So I'll send a home assignment for the week, which will consolidate all the 2 days of learning into a single assignment. Please give a try before you guys can come in for the next week. Is that clear for all of you? And one thing which is pending from me is why the email is not passed for few. I'll check and then confirm back to you.